Yeah, I think so. And I think back to, it would have been about 6 or 7 years ago, a really, really tough class that I had. I sort of started the school year and I was fairly fresh as a beginning teacher, and I had a few people come in, a few of the teachers and the other staff come in and say, oh gosh, you don't know what you're in for this year. That's going to be... I sort of had the class that no one else wanted to teach, and they'd sort of scared a few teachers off the year before. And so anyway, that was probably one of the hardest but the best years of my life, because for me, teaching, it's not just a job and it's not just a paycheck, it's kind of all encompassing. Yeah, awesome. And I think, so I had this really tough group of kids, and on the very first day of that year I went home and cried all the way home, which was a 45-minute drive. So, and I thought, what have I done? This is insane. But there was just there was so much trauma and pain and hurt amongst those kids and neglect, and it manifested in all sorts of really ugly and hard ways. But I think through having that class, it kind of taught me a lot of things, but it gave me the opportunity to really love these kids and respond in... I think it's really natural, it's human nature to want to respond to when people hurt us. We want someone else to feel that hurt, and it's really easy to respond in anger and in judgment. But I think throughout the year, we just developed this really nice culture of trust and belonging and acceptance in that space. And I think, there were so many kids in that classroom. We have this thing, there was a study done a while ago, the ACEs study, and it was, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it was a study of adverse childhood experiences and how these adverse experiences, like having a parent who had substance abuse issues, or a parent or a sibling or a close family member who was incarcerated, or experiencing physical or emotional neglect, or having a parent with a gambling issue or violence, domestic violence in the home. And so there's like this checklist of these perhaps, I think, 10 or 11 adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. And they kind of say, the more ACEs that a child ticks, the greater their chance of experiencing really chronic mental and physical health issues throughout their lives. And in this class in particular, I would say most of the kids in that class would tick at least one or two of those ACEs. There was one boy who I think I could nearly cross off all of them. Wow. And for me, I think, they were hurting, and they wanted to respond by lashing out and swearing and abuse and stealing and violence and blame. And
a lot of the time they don't know any better, do they?
No.
That's the way they've learned.
Yeah, it's the way they've learned. And so for me, one of the most powerful things was to be able to teach them that there's a different way, and it's not the way that feels natural to you, or the way that you instinctively want to respond, or the way that you've been taught to respond, but there's a greater way to live your life and to respond to situations.